Well, good morning. It's Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Whatever time zone you happen to be in, I hope you're having a good day so far. Hopefully, by the end of the day, you'll not only have a good day, a pleasant day, but also a profitable day as well. So, welcome to the show. I'm Chris Pardo. I'm here coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, not only on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, but also on Blackjack Radio, on Mile High Radio out there in the Colorado area, and of course on most of your major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcast, Spreaker, Spotify, you name it, we're on most of them all of the time. So thank you very much for listening. Got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be really kind of taking a look at as far as the Underdogs are concerned. We're going to give you an update as to how well the Underdogs have been doing as far as Major League Baseball is concerned, and a couple of the other sports as well. Not doing as well in National Hockey League or in the NBA, but in Major League Baseball, doing very, very well. So we're going to be talking about that. And of course, if you've listened to the show before, you know that we are contrarian in our philosophies here at the Sports Wagering Zone. And if you're contrarian, then you're primarily wagering on the underdogs. We do pick up an occasional favorite here and there when there's a possibility that there's some value in betting on a favorite, and that's the case. But other than that, we primarily pay most of our attention to the underdogs. And of course, we also follow the professionals and their betting techniques and who they're going to be betting on. And we determine that by watching the line movement of the various situations coming up. So this way you can tell in which direction the line is moving. Once you determine which way it's going, that'll point you in the direction of where the pros are going as well. So we're going to be talking about three games that are coming up today in Major League Baseball. Like I said, we're going to take a closer look at them, take a look at the line movements, and try to determine in which direction the pros are going. Now, how you use that information is strictly up to you, whether you want to employ it as part of a system that you're very content with right now, or perhaps you're brand new into the fold. You know, we've got now 28 states are going to be coming on board altogether now that Florida has announced that they're going to be allowing sports betting from a legal standpoint. So there's going to be a lot of new people coming in. So, you know, if you're new, you're just starting out, you want to kind of get an idea as to some systems or ways of making selections, this is one way to take a look at them as well. So we'll go into those as well, give you a complete roundup as to how the underdogs have been doing so far in the various sports as well. So let's take that first look at what happened yesterday. That's what we normally do on the show. We kind of review what happened yesterday in the three major sports: National Hockey League, NBA, and Major League Baseball. To start out with, in the National Hockey League, the favorites did very well. Of course, the favorites have been doing very, very well as far as hockey is concerned so far this season. But yesterday they went 8-3, with the only upsets being St. Louis, which was a plus 135 on the money line against Colorado, Florida, which was a minus 105 on the money line against Carolina, and Washington, that was a plus 120 against the New York Islanders. Meanwhile, as far as the over-unders are concerned, the overs went 6-3-2 yesterday. He had two pushes yesterday: New Jersey and Pittsburgh, and Ottawa and Vancouver. Both those games were pushes. But understand, when we're talking about a push or a particular number about whatever the odds may be, we're talking about Las Vegas numbers. If you're living in New Jersey or some other place like Colorado or maybe Illinois or Mississippi, you may have a slightly different number, so maybe a little different from that. But we're looking at primarily Las Vegas numbers, and so in that situation, there were those picks as well. Okay. Now the favorites, now as far as the unders are concerned, they still lead. They're at 51%, 355 to 440. And of course, in hockey, just like in football, we can bet the first half or the second half. They have what we call first period overs and unders. They went over 9-2. The first period overs 9-2 yesterday. But the first period unders, they still lead. They're still at 51.2%. So that's the story, the headlines for the National Hockey League. Meanwhile, over at the NBA, the favorites also 5-2 straight up, and they were 4-3 against the spread. The Raptors Knicks closed as a pick-em in last night's games. Upsets were by the T-Wolves. They were 12.5-point dogs against the Jazz, and the Spurs being 3-point dogs against the Pelicans. The Rockets were plus 14 points underdog, and they covered with the Nuggets, especially the fact that they did lose, but they had the 14 points going in. They covered very simply. The favorites still lead 441 to 434. That's 50.4%. The unders are 5-3 yesterday, but the overs still lead, and they're at a little over 50% at 50.3. Meanwhile, over in Major League Baseball, the favorites went 9-4, with Milwaukee and Chicago closing as a pick-em. The upsets yesterday were by Seattle, Pittsburgh, Washington, and Miami. The favorites have been 21-6 the last 2 days, along with 2 pick-ems. So now they are more ahead of the underdogs at the 150 to 138 straight up on the season, with 13 games being a pick-em. Meanwhile, the unders were 7-4-3. You had pushes on Pittsburgh and Minnesota, Washington and the Mets, and Miami and San Francisco. And of course, as far as the unders are concerned, they still lead 155 to 135, which is almost at 54%. So that's the story with Major League Baseball. NBA, National Hockey League, as far as what happened yesterday, how the favorites and the underdogs fared against each other. So that's the story there. So now that we've got that business taken care of, we're going to take a break. And when we usually take 3 breaks within the show, each one's of about 1 minute duration. When we come back, we're going to look at 3 games on tap for today. Cincinnati against St. Louis, Milwaukee against the Chicago Cubs, and the Philadelphia Phillies against the Colorado Rockies. Those are the games that we will take a look at. We'll analyze, take a look at the line movement in those games, and also try to determine in which direction the pros are going with their money as well. So that's the story as far as what's coming up. In the meantime, we're going to take that break, and of course, as usual, we'll be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We are on all of them as well. So welcome to the show. It's Sunday morning. We got this weekend. It's almost going to be coming to an end. I hope you're enjoying the day so far. Of course, if you're on the East Coast, we're just kind of getting into it. If you're out on the West Coast, you're just getting up and getting ready to see what the day has in store for you. So that's the story as far as today. We talked about what happened yesterday in the world of sports, how the underdogs and the favorites fared against each other. Now let's take time and take a look at 3 games on tap today in the Major League Baseball circuit. And we're going to check and see how the line movement is going on them and also try to determine in which direction the pros are going. So at 2 o'clock, a little after 2, you have the Cincinnati Reds against the St. Louis Cardinals. The Reds are 9-11. The Cardinals are 10-10 so far this season, right at 500. But the Cardinals have taken the first 2 games of this game, which is a Central Division game. They won 5-4, where they were minus 108 favorites on Friday, and then they won 2-0 yesterday as minus 112 favorites on Saturday. So today's series finale, the Reds give the ball to their veteran, Luis Castillo. He's 1-1 so far with a 6.05 ERA, while the Cardinals come back with their young stud, Jack Flaherty. Great season so far, 3-0, 3.80 ERA, so having a great start to this new season. The line opened at St. Louis was listed as a minus 120 on the money line as a home favorite. Now, we've seen the pros ride this hot hand. They've been playing the Cardinals the past couple of days. If you're listening to the show, you know those are 2 games that we talked about, and that's the direction they were going in. But this time they're going to lay the chalk with the Cardinals once again. And when they did that, it pushed the Cardinal line up from minus 120 up to minus 126 on the money line. The Cardinals have value because they're a favorite with that low total. The total in this game is 7. Now, historically, when you look at low totals, they've benefited the favorites because there's a fewer amount of expected runs that are going to be scored. And so it's more likely to come from what we call the better team or the favorite. The Reds are in a tailspin right now. After starting the season at 9-5, now they've lost 6 straight games. The total opened at 7.5. Pros immediately jumped on that one, dropping the line down to 7. The Cardinals have Castillo on opening day. Castillo gave up 8 runs and 8 hits in just 3.1 innings pitched. 3 1/3 innings, with the Cardinals winning that game 11-6. So he's up today again. And of course, like we said, on opening day, had a rough opening. 8 runs, 8 hits in just 3 1/3 innings. So as far as the pros are concerned, they like the St. Louis Cardinals in this game. And of course, they're looking for the under as well. Meanwhile, around 2 o'clock or so, Eastern time, of course, the Milwaukee Brewers that are 12-8, playing the Chicago Cubs in the Windy City. Cubs are at 500 now because the Brewers and the Cubs, well, they kind of exchanged wins and losses over the first 2 games in this series. The Cubs dominated that opener 15-2. They easily won. They were a minus 155 home favorite. Then we saw the Brewers bounce back with a 4-3 win yesterday. In this game, they were a short minus 105 dog, okay? In today's rubber match, Milwaukee starts their ace, Brandon Woodruff. He's 1-0 so far this season with a 1.96 ERA. Meanwhile, the Cubs, they're coming in with Jake Arrieta, 3-1 this season, having a great start so far with a 2.86 ERA. Now, this line opened with the Brewers as a minus 140 road favorite. Now, the public in this situation, they're happy to back Milwaukee because they have a better record, number one. They're coming off of a win, and they have their ace that's going to be pitching. But in spite of all this lopsided support and what I've just talked about, the Brew Crew have dropped from being a minus 140 road favorite to a 130 road favorite. This signals what we call a sharp reverse line movement on the home dog, which are the Cubs. Okay. The pros are getting on the Cubs, taking that plus money, going from a plus 130 to a plus 120 on the money line, because when they came in, the, the lines have altered. They've changed them, went from 130 to 120. The Cubs have value in this game because they're a divisional dog, okay, and a home dog who made the playoffs the season before. So keep an eye on the total in this one, though. It hasn't been released yet. The forecast calls for temperatures in the low 40s. There'll be a 10-mile-per-hour wind blowing in from center field. That's the way it looks. So what happens is it provides an edge, of course, to the underbettors. But the numbers, check with them because they may be coming out soon. Check with them for whatever sportsbook you're dealing with. Now, both teams, they've been pretty good and profitable to the under this season. They both went 12-7 against the under. So with the wind blowing in, Chicago, 10 miles per hour, cooler temperatures in the 40s, look for a lower scoring game. And of course, the pros in this particular situation are on the Cubs as well. So the third game we're looking at 3 o'clock, around that time, Eastern time, of course, the Philadelphia Phillies against the Colorado Rockies out in Denver. So we're going to go into that game, but let's take our second break. Let's get that one out of the way. When we come back, we'll talk about that game, give you an update as to how well this system has been doing so far this season. And of course, then again, like always, we leave it up to you as to what you want to do with the information that we give you. So let's take that second break. And just a reminder, you're in the sports wagering zone. We'll be back right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you for listening. We're over here coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Every weekend we on at 11 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, Monday through Friday. We're on at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So those are our times. Those are the days of the week that we're here. In the meantime, we looked at two games earlier. If you missed them, we'll give you them once again. As far as the Cincinnati Reds, St. Louis Cardinals game is concerned, the pros in that game are on the St. Louis Cardinals like they have been over the past 2 days as well. Milwaukee Brewers against the Chicago Cubs, the pros are on the Cubs. And be alert for as far as the over-under number of runs scored. Understand that there's a wind blowing in from center field, which generally means you're going to have a lower scoring game, kind of favors the unders in that situation. Also at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, Philadelphia Phillies, 10-10 at 500, going down to Colorado to play the Rockies at 7-13 this season. Now, this is a non-divisional game. They split the first two games. The Rockies won the opener 5-4. They were 124 home favorites on the money line, and the Phillies winning 7-5 yesterday as 175 road favorites on the minus side as well. So in this afternoon's game, which we kind of refer to as the rubber match, the Phillies are going to pitch Chase Anderson, who's kind of off to a rough start, 0-2 so far this season, with a 4.15 ERA. Meanwhile, the Rockies are going to come with their hard-throwing John Gray. He's 2-1 so far this season, with a 2.42 ERA. Now, as we look at the line, it opened with Colorado as a modest minus 120 home favorite. Now, we've seen the Rockies drop from 120 down to 115. So what this means is that some of the pro money is leaning on Philadelphia as a plus money dog. And when they did that, it went from being a plus 110 to a plus 105 on the money line. So the Phillies have value in this game because they're a dog. They're coming off of a win. They're also a dog with a line move in their favor, and they're a road dog. Those are the characteristics that are employed in doing analytical surveys. Philadelphia also fits the dog sweet spot, as dogs that are plus 140 or less are at 51% this season and are pretty good as a return on investment of almost 10%. So the Phillies also match a dog with a high total being 11 in this game. And historically looking, when you look at high totals, they benefit the dogs because you're expecting more runs to be scored. And when that happens, that often leads to more upset opportunities for the underdog. So in this game, Philadelphia against Colorado, the pros are on the underdog on this one, the Philadelphia Phillies for sure at the plus side. So those are the three games on tap for today. Those are the line movements on the games, and also letting you know in which direction the pros have been betting so far as well. So you ask, well, what do I do with this information? Well, there's different things you can do. Number one, you could use it to employ it and put it together with the system that you're using right now. Because we all know we've been in a situation where we're looking at a game and we like team A to begin with. And then as we start looking at closer and closer, the day goes by a little slower. You're listening to sports radio and all of a sudden the other team starts to look better. So it gets to the point where either one looks good. So you're not sure which game to bet on. You're not certain. You want to flip the coin or throw the dart at the board to see which one it chooses. Either way, if you're at that point, perhaps you might want to be listening to the show where we tell you that the pros are on a particular game. Say that Philadelphia game against the Rockies. In that particular game, the pros are on the underdog, Philadelphia. So if you're undecided which one to go, you could say, hey, I'm going to go along with the pros. They're doing pretty good. I'm going to add them, so I'm going to play the Phillies. Or you may say, they haven't been doing all that well lately, so I'm going to bet against them on this one. But it's up to you to decide. And they're trying to help you, let you know how well the teams are doing. Again, we've been using this method of selection since the beginning of the season. Yesterday, we had three plays. Pittsburgh against Minnesota, which was a loser. We had Cincinnati against St. Louis, which was a win because we had the Cardinals. And the Yankees against Cleveland had the Yankees, which was a winner. So yesterday, out of three plays, we had two winners, one loser. The day before that, we had three plays, two winners, one loser. The day before that, we had three winners. So altogether, if you add it all up, we've had 62 plays altogether, 35 wins, 27 losses. It gives you a 56.4% average, win average, 56.4. If you're betting, understand 52.3, 52.4 is your break-even point. So had you started doing it right from the beginning of the season, you'd be ahead at this point in time. Not saying that you should do it or that you shouldn't do it, just bringing you the information so that you can make your decision. You can say, hey, all right, so what? So they're doing okay, fine. I like what I'm doing. I like the way I'm doing it. I'm going to continue to do it my way. That's all good and well. But at least we're giving you the information so that you can make that final decision as to which way you want it to go. So as far as that's concerned, let's take a look at those 3 games once again. In the first 2 games, the Pros Cincinnati Reds and St. Louis Cardinals game, the Pros are on the Cardinals. So like I said, they had them the past 2 days. They won on them the past 2 days. So they're the favorite once again. This time they were on them as a favorite. The Cubs against the Brewers. There, the Cubs are the underdog, going with the Cubs. And of course, they are against the Brewers. They're at 10-10. They're right at the 500 point. Keep in mind that the wind's going to be blowing in from center field. So if you like to bet the over-unders, consider the under situation in this type of situation. So then you get the Phillies and the Rockies, and once again, on to the Philadelphia Phillies, who are the underdog in this game as well. So 2 out of the 3 games, the Pros are on the dogs. 1 game, they're on the favorite. Now, that's no big surprise once again, because most of the time, the Pros are on the underdog. They're primarily contrarian bettors, but keeping in mind that, there's a favorite situation that comes up every now and then, or even more so than not. If there's value in that particular situation, like the Cardinals-Cincinnati game, for instance, they will go with the favorite as well. So that's the story for the games for today. When we take our final break and we do come back, we're going to take a look at how the underdogs have been doing. Yesterday, day before yesterday, haven't been all that good. But you just can't take a snapshot of one day and say, well, you know what? That system's terrible. It hasn't been doing too well for 2 days. You have to look at it over a long period of time. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Always think of it that way. So let's take that final break. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at underdogs and maybe just how to play some of the underdogs. You don't want to play every single one. There are certain factors that you look for among the underdogs and to select which it is you wanted to play. So let's take that final break and we'll be back right after this message. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone, talking about underdogs, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, and of course on some podcast platforms as well, such as Apple Podcasts. We also have iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, you name it, we're there. So thank you very much for listening. We're here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Now, talking about betting on underdogs, if you've listened to the show over the past few years, you kind of get the idea that we are contrarians. Contrarian means you're betting against the public, okay? Now, the one thing is for certain, the underdogs, they're not all the same. You can't go along and bet every single one. There are certain clues that you have to look for in order to pick the right underdogs to bet on. Because, betting on baseball is different than betting on basketball or football or anything else, even golf or sports racing. Let's say stock car racing or the Memorial Day race that comes up in Indiana, the Indianapolis 500. Either way, unlike football and basketball, baseball is predominantly a money line sport. And what that means, you just need to pick which team is going to win, okay? The bettors also have a lot of games to choose from, much more than betting on basketball or football, because there are at least 14 to 15 games a day. And all throughout the season, you're going close to 2,400 games throughout the year. That's a lot of games to bet on. So if you're new to betting baseball, or if you're looking to get a refresher, a kind of a up to date situation, baseball is a very good sport to bet because you don't need to win as many games, especially if you're betting the dogs, because every time one of your dogs wins, you're making more than the money that you're laying out. So over the long haul, if you're doing it correctly and you're picking the right underdogs, you're going to be farther ahead, because with every win, you not only, let's say you're betting $100 just for the sake of argument. All right, the money line may be 140 or maybe 130. So if you win, you're making 130, 140. Now you can afford to have a loser in there somewhere, and it's not going to be the total 100 you're going to lose. It's just a matter of numbers. Just write them down, see for yourself. So if you're new to betting, like I said, or you're looking for a little help in that direction, here's some ideas on how you can try to get into the profit column and avoid making some mistakes. And they're mistakes that people make all the time. That's why we have to keep reminding you about it. One thing you have to do is you have to avoid the big favorites. Now, sometimes you're going to be betting on an underdog. You may be picking an underdog that may be, say, a 2-point underdog. Now, if the pros jump on that dog and it drops, it may become a favorite where it's a 110 or a 102, a 103, 104 on the money line. Well, it doesn't mean that you just forget about it altogether. You liked it as a dog, and when it's only a $1 or $2, $3 difference, it's not a bad idea to kind of stay with it, even though at that point in time it has become the favorite. But what you want to do is stay away from the big favorites, because the public loves taking these favorites. After all, in their minds, they think that because it's a favorite, it's a better team, and it's expected to win. But the sports books know that this bias exists amongst the general public, and what they do is they control the lines, so they kind of turn them towards the popular teams. What that does, it forces those bettors to lay overpriced numbers. So where a team might be, say, a minus 120 on the money line, once the money starts coming in, okay, it may go up. So if you're constantly laying, say, minus 200 or 250 or 300, you're assuming a big risk with very little reward, which means if you're betting 100, if if you want to win $100 and you're betting on one of the favorites, you may be laying 200, 250, or 300. Okay. Of course, if you lose that one, that's a lot to make up. So if you like big favorites, you might be better off taking them on the spread. Also, we refer to that as the run line. For example, it's this way. Instead of betting a favorite at being minus 300 on the money line, you could bet that team to win by 2 points or more, 2 runs or more on the run line. The run line is always minus 1.5 or minus 140 on the money line for that particular. That's what it's going to cost you. In other words, it's got to win 2 games or more, but 2 runs or more, by the way. Okay. If you do lose, it's going to cost you $140. If you win, you're going to win $100. That's how the run line works as opposed to the money line. And also try to stay with the divisional underdogs, because to break even betting on spread and over under sports such as football and basketball, you have to win 52.3, 52.4% of your plays. That's a case, just the minus 110 juice, which is the normal way it's done. Okay. Now, one advantage in baseball is that if you avoid the big favorites and you focus on the underdogs, you can win less than 50%. You can win somewhere around 45% and still turn a profit because the plus money is being paid out. Think of being plus 110, maybe plus 130, plus 175, maybe even plus 200 in some instances. We have a big upset. However, it doesn't mean you should bet every dog. The key is focusing on divisional dogs. They perform better than underdogs playing out of their division. And because of this, and the reason why it happens is because they play each other more often. They're more familiar. They know the team. They know the managers. They've played at these stadiums before. Okay. They play each other 19 times a year. Okay. So they know what to expect from the team that they're playing against. So this helps to level the playing field. And of course, it benefits the underdog as well. And most importantly of all, take a look and monitor that line movement. The way a line moves can tell you a lot about where the public is, where the pro money is going, and that's what's the key. The goal is to bet against the average public. They bet based on gut instinct. They have their biases. So place yourself on the side of the house. And most importantly, be on the same side as the pros are, because they have the respect of the sports books and they win more than they lose. They're somewhere around 56 to 60%. Now, so you track how a line moves right from the opening right up to just before game time. If a line is moving toward a team, that's a good sign that the pro money is in its favor. That's the team they're going to be betting. A reverse line movement is a great indicator that they are really coming in strong on that particular team. This is when the betting line moves away from the popular side toward the unpopular side. Now, steam is also important. Steam is when you get a lot of money coming in at one time. A steam could be 20 cents or more in one direction. So also look out for those late moves. They happen just maybe be a half hour, an hour before game time, because that's when the limits are the highest, and that's when the really big money starts coming in. So if you kind of pay attention to some of those tips and you want to start betting underdogs, put them into your categories. That's what you should be looking for. Look for the divisional dogs, track the line movement, see how they're doing, and stay with the pros if you can. Once again, it's information. It's information for you. You can use it, you can use part of it, or you can just forget about it altogether and keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. But if what you're doing is not working right, you might want to start considering some of the things we talked about today. So that's the story as far as that's concerned. Once again, going over the 3 games that we have on tap for today and the money line movement, the line movement, and the pros as far as they're concerned. Cincinnati against St. Louis. Once again, the 3rd game in a series. They're on the Cardinals once again. Milwaukee against the Cubs. They like the Cubs in that game. And Philadelphia playing the Colorado Rockies. The team that they're looking at are the Chicago Cubs. And keep in mind, the wind's going to be blowing in from center field. So if you're looking at the over-unders, take a close look at that under number and see what that total is going to be. So thank you very much for listening. It's Sunday. I hope you have a pleasant Sunday, out with the family, out for a ride if it's a beautiful day or whatever. Or if it's raining, you're kind of sitting inside watching some sports, maybe watching a favorite movie or something of that nature. But enjoy the day, whatever. If you're going to be betting today, of course, we wish you the best of luck, and we hope that you do very, very well. So just hoping that we have a great day, but even more so than a great day, let's have a profitable day as well. So I'm Chris Pardo. We've been coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. We'll be back again tomorrow, Monday, at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, and of course, podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms as well. So until tomorrow at 4 p.m., have a great day. Not only have a great day if you're betting, I hope you have a profitable day as well. So until tomorrow at 4 p.m., have a beautiful day. See you and talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody.